If you've never stopped to question the way you live, what you do, how you think, what you believe, then you've likely never lived at all. You've executed someone else's script. That's the uncomfortable truth. Most people aren't thinking. They're following. Memorized answers, learned behaviors, social reflexes dressed up as identity. They call it free will. It's automation. From childhood to career to relationships, everything is built to reward compliance and punish friction. You are praised for fitting in, not for figuring things out. And the moment you question that framework, people flinch. They get angry. Not because you're wrong, but because you've made them aware of a cage they've agreed not to see. I noticed this early. When I asked questions teachers couldn't answer, they scolded me. When I challenged beliefs adults couldn't defend, they told me to stop thinking too much. What they really meant was, stop threatening the default. But I couldn't. I don't know how to operate on untested assumptions. I don't trust traditions that survived only because no one dared to kill them. I question until what's left is raw, undeniable, provable. That's not rebellion. That's clarity. And the world hates clarity. Clarity means discomfort. It means burning away every layer of inherited illusion. And most people are not built for that. They think in analogies. I think in physics. They look for shortcuts. I start from zero. They protect the system. I dismantle it to see if anything inside still works. That's why I never fit. That's why I never tried to. You don't get to Mars by obeying Earth. You don't solve extinction with tradition. You don't fix the future by protecting the present. The default mode, the way most people live, think, react, isn't just broken. It's dangerous. It keeps us small when we need to evolve. It teaches comfort when the planet is on fire. It rewards performance while ignoring reality. If that doesn't disturb you, I can't help you. But if it does, then maybe something in you is still awake. Most people solve problems by analogy. They ask, what worked last time? Or, what are others doing? That's not thinking. That's mimicry. That's the same code being reused across different screens, pretending to be original. It creates a world of surface upgrades built on rotting assumptions. When I hear people say something can't be done, I don't ask who said it. I ask what it's made of. What are the raw materials? What are the physical limits? What is true when all opinion is stripped away? That's first principles. Not what's probable, what's undeniable, not what's accepted, what's real. Most people build ideas like stacking blocks on sand. I drill until I hit bedrock, then I build. When they told me rockets were too expensive, I asked, what is a rocket? Chemically, mechanically, atomically. It's aluminum, carbon fiber, engines, guidance systems. If the materials cost X, then why are they selling it for 50X? I didn't want the answer from Boeing. I wanted it from physics. So I didn't buy a rocket. I built one. That wasn't genius. That was subtraction. Subtract assumption, subtract tradition, subtract ego. What's left is something no one wants to face. Truth without packaging. And most people hate that. They say it's unrealistic or reckless or arrogant, but that's because they've built their worldview on metaphors, not math, on culture, not chemistry, on what feels safe, not what survives scrutiny. I've watched entire industries defend their inefficiency like religion. Car companies laughed at Tesla until they copied us. Aerospace giants called SpaceX impossible until they lost contracts to us. They thought they were competing with a company. They weren't. They were competing with reality, and reality doesn't blink. It doesn't care what you believe. It only honors what works. That's what first principles thinking does. It strips away all comfort and leaves you with what actually exists. It's not meant to inspire. It's meant to slice. Most people think clarity feels good. It doesn't. It cuts. But when the noise is gone, when the metaphors are dead, when you're finally staring at the raw frame of how things truly are, you get to decide. Will you build from it, or will you go back to decorating lies? Emotion clouds logic. That's not opinion. That's observation. When I'm solving problems, I don't care how I feel. I care if it works. Sentimentality doesn't build rockets. Optimism doesn't stabilize AI. Empathy doesn't land boosters with sub-millimeter precision. Precision comes from clarity. Clarity comes from data. And data doesn't cry. When I sold my homes, people said I was crazy. They called it impulsive, irrational, too extreme. What they didn't understand is that my comfort was a liability. Every square foot was a distraction. Every possession was one more reason to slow down. And I can't afford drag. Not when Mars is waiting. Not when entropy is accelerating. Not when time is the only asset I can't earn back. So I eliminated everything non-essential. I didn't ask how it made me feel. I asked what it was costing me. That's how I run every decision. Cost versus consequence. Delay versus decay. Inputs, outputs, tolerances, failure rates. Nothing else matters. People think that kind of calculation makes you robotic. Maybe. But the world doesn't reward feelings. It rewards results. And most people lose because they bring their emotions to a fight that only respects efficiency. They negotiate with their fear. I don't. Fear doesn't get a seat at my table. It's not that I don't feel it. I just don't let it vote. I've made decisions that looked reckless from the outside. Betting everything on reusable rockets. Pouring capital into self-driving software when it failed 1,000 times. Launching chips into the brain when everyone else was playing with apps. But those weren't leaps of faith. They were calculated tolerances. Risk without delusion. Vision without romance. People ask how I stay motivated. I don't. Motivation is unreliable. What I have is a feedback loop. Test, fail, learn, repeat. And when it works, scale until it breaks again. That's not burnout. That's engineering. There's no need to feel heroic. Just execute. Then optimize. Then question the entire system again. If that feels cold to you, then maybe you've mistaken heat for depth. Because deep thinking is rarely warm. If you want results, you have to divorce your preferences. If you want to survive what's coming, you have to upgrade your inputs. So here's your calculation. If you've watched this far, what's your excuse for going back to the old code? What's your tolerance for staying average? Don't answer with emotion. Answer with logic. Most questions are designed to protect the questioner. That's why I ignore them. I don't care how to make cars slightly safer. I ask whether cars should exist. I don't ask how to improve schools. I ask if the entire education model is obsolete. I don't debate policy tweaks. I calculate whether the system should be burned down and rebuilt from first principles. That's the difference. Most people ask questions to stay safe. I ask questions that risk everything. And I prefer it that way. Easy questions are intellectual wallpaper. They decorate, they distract. They exist to preserve comfort, not expose truth. They make you sound smart without requiring you to think. I don't have patience for that. When I sit with engineers, I don't ask what's broken. I ask what's invisible. When I walk into a room and everything seems fine, I look for what no one is mentioning. The blind spot, the flaw people have accepted as permanent. That's where the truth hides, beneath consensus. Most companies ask how to increase margins. I ask why they still exist. Most governments debate resource allocation. I ask whether humans can survive on this planet in the next 100 years. These aren't rhetorical questions. They're urgent. And the answers don't care about opinion. They care about timelines. Survival doesn't wait for consensus. Innovation doesn't grow in polite rooms. If your question can be answered in a board meeting, it's probably not worth asking. I've never been interested in sounding smart. I want to build things that make the question irrelevant. That's why I build rockets, why I engineer AI, why I risk money, time, relationships.